Hey everyone, it's Kenji. I'm here at home and I'm going to show you how to make biscuits and sausage gravy. So this is a American breakfast staple. If you aren't from the US, some of this might seem strange to you, especially our use of the term biscuit. When we say biscuit, we mean something similar to what you might call a scone in England, although they tend to be moister and moister than a scone and can be either sweet or savory. I'm going to make a very simple biscuit. Actually, everything is very simple. All we need, the only ingredients are flour, baking powder, salt, heavy cream, sausage, black pepper for the gravy. That's it. That's all the ingredients for everything we're making today. So to start with, I'm going to put about a cup of flour. If you want to be precise about this, you can do 5 ounces of flour, or multiples thereof. But I'm just going to put about a cup of flour. I generally eyeball this one because it's so easy. And for every cup of flour, you're going to put in 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. About 1.5. There you go. And about a 1/4 teaspoon or so of kosher salt. Okay, I'm going to mix that together with my hand. And then for a cup of flour, so a cup of flour weighs 5 ounces. You want to use the same amount of heavy cream by weight as the flour. So about 5 ounces of heavy cream. Again, I'm going to eyeball this because I've done it a bunch of times. You can weigh it out if you want. But the important part is the finished texture of this dough. So we're looking for something that kind of comes together. There you go. A sort of shaggy ball like that. Not too stiff. Not wet, just a kind of shaggy ball, just like that. So these are called cream biscuits. They are the easiest kind of biscuit you can make. Oh, this is all-purpose flour. If you have, pastry flour, cake flour, your biscuits will come out a little bit lighter. If you have something like, what's that southern brand? I can't remember. White Lily, that's the one. If you have White Lily flour, they'll come out even more tender. But all-purpose flour works out just fine. The advantage of a cream biscuit is that you don't have to, with a biscuit made with butter and buttermilk, normally you would cut your butter into small pieces, you'd have to work it into the flour, and then you'd add your buttermilk and very sort of gently push it together into a dough. A cream biscuit is much more forgiving. All that butter fat is built into it already, so you don't have to separately add any butter fat. You don't have to separately add any butter because all the fat's in there already. It makes it much, much easier. The end results are a little bit different, of course, than a typical buttermilk biscuit, but I think they're very delicious. So now I'm just going to push this down by hand. This a cup of flour is enough to make about 3 biscuits, by the way, so you can double this and make 6 biscuits. Of course, it also depends on the size. So now with these biscuits, you could cut them out with a biscuit cutter, like a pastry cutter, something like that. You could also stamp them out with a cup, but I'm just going to cut these with a knife because I don't care for them. I don't care if they're perfectly circular or not. That is it. I'm going to take these now, plop them onto a tray. And then these are going to go into a 400-degree preheated oven. How long are they going to take? Probably 15 minutes or so, 12 to 15 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to make our sausage gravy. So, this is another term that might confuse some non-Americans because we call this gravy, but it's different from what you would call gravy in the UK or in other parts of the world. Generally, like in England, gravy is brown gravy. It's a meat-based thing. We also have that style of gravy here. Like our Thanksgiving gravy is turkey stock that's thickened with a roux. But we also we call white gravy or country gravy is essentially a bechamel, which is a thickened milk mixture. In this case, I'm just going to thicken some heavy cream because the heavy cream is already out. And this is one of those recipes that uses barely any ingredients. And so to make sausage gravy, we start with sausage. So this is regular old breakfast sausage from the supermarket. You can use, whatever brand you like. I think this is probably, I don't remember. This might be like the Whole Foods brand, or maybe it's the Safeway brand. But you can use Jimmy Dean, something like that. American breakfast sausage is a very fatty pork sausage that's generally flavored with black pepper and sage. So if you're not in the US and you can't get American style breakfast sausage, first of all, you can make some on your own. I have a recipe for it in my book, in the food lab. You can make it on your own, or you can get my recipe on SeriousEats.com. Essentially, you would take nice fatty ground pork, add about 2%, 1.5 to 2% by weight salt, and then about 1% ground sage and black pepper. About 1% of each of those, and then mix them all together. I like to add a little bit of maple syrup for flavor, as well as a touch of sugar, and a little pinch of red pepper flakes too. And then you kind of mix it all together until the meat starts to get kind of sticky. You knead it essentially like you're kneading bread dough in a bowl, and just the same way that bread dough gets stickier and stickier the more you knead it, sausage does as well. As the salt sort of dissolves muscle proteins and they start cross-linking. That's what gives sausage that sort of bouncy, springy texture when it's cooked. So that's basic breakfast sausage, and you can use it just like this. Of course, you don't have to use breakfast sausage. You can use any flavor of sausage you want. I've made this with, I'm the chef at a sausage restaurant at a German-style beer hall, so we have a lot of sausage scraps because the big piston stuffers that pushes the sausage into the casing, when you get down to the bottom of it, there's always a little bit left in the tube that can't be pushed into the casing. So we always have sausage scraps of various flavors. We make 8 different kinds of sausage at any given time. So we have sausage scraps of various flavors kicking around all the time there. So I've made sausage gravy with Italian sausage. I've made it with ground. We do a pastrami sausage, ground pastrami sausage. It works with all kinds of flavors, but the classic is American style breakfast sausage. So I'm just going to brown this off in a skillet. Looks like it's not quite as fatty as I like it, so I'm going to add just a touch of butter to this. And by the way, you don't even have to have any sausage in your biscuits and gravy. You could also just make a straight up white gravy. So to do that, I would take butter, a couple tablespoons of butter and a couple tablespoons of flour, along with a few really good serious cracks of black pepper, and cook them in a skillet just like this, stirring it with a whisk until the mixture, the flour gets rid of its sort of raw flavor and starts to turn a little bit pale blonde, and then very slowly whisk in 2 cups of milk, and then bring that up to a simmer so that it thickens, and that would be your basic black pepper cream gravy, or as it's known in most other cuisines, bechamel, bechamel, white sauce, whatever you want to call it. Don't ask me why we call these biscuits. I honestly don't know. Originally, a biscuit comes from French, I believe, but it means twice cooked. And so generally, like, a biscuit is something sort of, well, if you think about Italian, you're familiar with Italian biscotti, which is the same root word, means twice cooked, and it's like a cookie that's basically baked once, sliced, and then baked again until it dries out and gets crispy. Whereas American style biscuits are only cooked a single time. Although in the UK, when you say biscuits, you're really talking about what we call, well, certain types of cookies. So I don't know why they call it those biscuits either. I guess the real answer is that everyone is wrong all the time. Alright, so that sausage is browned. I'm going to get some flour. When you're making a cream gravy with actual cream instead of milk, you don't need quite as much flour because cream is kind of thick on its own. And actually, that cream was only half full, so I guess I'll use a combination. If I had a full thing of cream, I would have been able to make those biscuits and this gravy all in one go, but I will use a combination of heavy cream and milk. So a little bit more flour. So I'd say I have about 1.5 tablespoons of flour in there total, and I'm going to add I think I have like 1/3 of a cup of cream here. So I'll do like 1/3 of a cup of cream, and a little over a cup of milk. So we incorporate that flour. Where'd my whisk at? Here we go. Someone's always taking whisks around here. So when adding liquid to a bechamel, a white sauce, you always add it slowly. Make sure it's fully incorporated before you go ahead and add more. And initially it's going to get real thick. And that's fine. Going a splash at a time. Now the thing to remember when you're making a white sauce like this, well, one of many things to remember, one of a moderate list of things to remember, is that it doesn't fully thicken until it comes to a boil. So if it seems too thin at first, when you've added some liquid and it seems thinner than you want it, make sure you let it come up to a simmer before you make that judgment to add more liquid or not. And you can always make this as thin or as thick as you like. Let's see how our biscuits are doing. Getting there, getting there. Some people like their gravy nice and thick. Some people prefer to keep it nice and loose. I'm not going to judge you either way. I will judge you if you let other people tell you what your gravy should be like, though. These biscuits, by the way, and American-style biscuits in general, when you bake them, the tops are going to get, sort of pale golden, a little bit brown on top. If you want them to have a nice, a real rich, deep, dark gold color, brush them before you start baking them. Brush them with either some melted butter, or you can brush them with a little bit of straight up heavy cream. Either one of those is going to help the tops brown more deeply, if you care about such things. When I'm making, if I was going to serve the biscuits as their own thing on the side, I might care, but in a dish like this where they're going to get literally doused with a creamy sauce, and you're not going to see the tops anymore, I really don't care, so I'm not going to bother. Alright, that's about, I think, about the right amount of milk. If you add too much milk, by the way, you can always let it reduce a little bit and thicken up. But let's taste that and see where we're at. Yummy. Definitely need some salt. Use a little more black pepper. I like to go heavy on pepper. You can also, if you want, you can always add something like onions or garlic to your gravy. I know some people would think that's sacrilegious, but if you want it, do it. Yeah, that's good. Biscuits, how we doing? I'm close. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shut this off. I'm gonna cover up the camera and I'm gonna uncover it in a few minutes. All right, and our biscuits are done. This took about 12 minutes total. Whew. Nice and golden, nice and fluffy and light. All right. Whew. Oh yeah, look at that. So I'll pretend I did that on purpose so I could show you the interior texture of these. See how nice and fluffy they come out? The magic of cream biscuits. All right, get them onto a plate. All right, now in with our gravy. And you really just want to smother them. If you want, of course, you could split the biscuits open. Some people do that. And I just ran out while we were, while I was waiting for those biscuits to finish. I ran out and grabbed some chives from the garden. There's no need to put any kind of green garnish on this if you don't feel like it. I would not expect it, but it doesn't hurt. All right, and here we have it: biscuits and sausage gravy, an American diner or home classic. So if you're unfamiliar with American biscuits, this is what they are. And if you're unfamiliar with sausage gravy, this is what that is. Sit. Good girl. And here you go. Come on. Good boy. All right, everyone. Guys, gals, non-binary pals, stay safe, eat well, be nice to each other, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.